Is history repeating itself at the state capitol? A century ago, what were lawmakers facing? Well, as we dive into the start of the session this year, our political reporter Josh Hinkle takes a peek into the past to see if there's a legislative lesson to be learned.
Texas, 1913. World War I was on the horizon. Woodrow Wilson was president, and the state's oil industry was in its infancy.
So this is the most recent post that came up this morning about the history, about what they were facing 100 years ago.
Amy Bethija is a clerk in the state capitol's legislative reference library.
This is viewable to the public.
This session, she's blogging about what lawmakers faced a century ago.
Back in 1913, statehood was when we became a state, was as far away to those people of 1913 as World War II is to us today.
Okay, this is the House Journal for the 33rd regular session.
Journals and other documents shed light on the political influences at the Capitol.
And these areas tended to be more rural.
The biggest was population. Back then, only a quarter of Texans lived in urban areas, making for a very rural representation.
And we have a lot of different resources that would be able to show that.
While a lot has changed in 50 sessions, a lot has also stayed the same. Back then, lawmakers were dealing with water issues, a drought, education, with school funding, even women's issues. But instead of women's health, it was women voting.
There were even similar backgrounds between leaders. The House Speaker now and then both called Bexar County home. Today's lawmakers say a century of politics is good guidance, principles to adapt to the modern age.
But things change, times change, world circumstances change, the economy of our nation changes.
That's why you don't just convene a political body once, and once it gets everything right, just put everything on autopilot for the rest of eternity.
The 33rd session, I'm going to search the House.
Bethija says 100 years from now, this session will be studied too. And what happens in the next few months might make an impact on how history plays out.
I think everyone can learn something from the past.
At the state capitol, Josh Hinkle, KXAN News.
The library's blog is called What's New? We have a link on this story in the legislative page at KXAN.com.